So guys, in the light of current events happening around the world regarding health issues, and I'm going to try to avoid saying the word here just to not trigger the YouTube algorithm, but in the light of everything that's happening, I felt that it might be time to share my journey around the internet, what I've seen, what I've heard, speaking to people with you guys, and ask the question whether I think personally the UK will go into lockdown, into a similar situation that China was in, or still is, I believe, in some areas, situation that Italy is in. Now, let me kind of put this up front. This is going to be a long video, so bear with me on this one, but I hope you enjoyed, because I think there's some really, really interesting stuff that I want to share with you guys. And if you have a different opinion, different view on things, then feel free to leave that down in the comment section below. I'm more than open for a debate, a discussion, learning new things on some of the things that I might not know. I'm not a health professional. I'm not a doctor in any shape or form. I'm just trying to do my research, observe things, and come to conclusion, while also listening, to the professionals and to the experts, because I think in everything we do, we always have to keep that in the back of our mind. So I'm not here to spread panic. I know that for me and my family, me and my wife, we're in our late 30s. We don't have, not that we know at least, any underlying conditions. My son is 5-year-old. We do have a baby that's under half a year old, so that is a risk factor, but overall the numbers on children are not that concerning. So I think, unless stuff goes horribly wrong, which there are cases of that happening as well, I think we are not really at risk personally. But I think at this point in an epidemic like this, it is each individual's responsibility to consider the people around you. Right? You see people on Twitter a lot being like, oh, I'm going to take my chances. It's fine. I'm young. I'm strong. That's not the point. For example, our neighbor, she is older than we are, considerably older. And if we would infect her or her husband without really knowing it, obviously, because we would do it in an incubation time of what's currently reported to be around 6-7 days, something like that. So we could potentially, without intention, infect other people around us who are much more at risk of coming down with this disease and requiring intensive care. So I can really just appeal to each single person to act responsibly. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said that one theory, in an interview with like a TV show, he said that one theory to deal with this disease is that we need to allow the disease to move through the population, take one to the chin, so to say. And I know that's been kind of taken out of context a little bit, so I've kind of opened this website which tries to put it right. Claim is that Prime Minister Boris Johnson advocated for the UK to take COVID-19 to the chin. And that's not exactly what I said, but he did say that one theory how to deal with the virus is that we just let the disease move through the population. Of course, nobody wants that, so he rode back on that immediately. Made it clear that nobody wants the disease to move through the population, and we will do everything we can to stop that from happening. But the truth is, they're not really doing a lot. I mean, they have promised to shut down visitors to the parliament. Like, visitors will not be allowed to enter the parliament anymore. So that apparently somehow has a very high priority on their list. Now, it was quite funny as I was kind of opening BBC News to just have like an opening page for this video. I saw that the health minister, Nadine Dorries, is also now tested positive for the disease. That's horrible. I wish her all the best. I don't know her age or if she has any underlying conditions. Now we are up to 382 cases in the UK. Now I want to start this video off by reading out the reports, self-written reports of a doctor who was kind of on the front lines of coronavirus, of the outbreak in Italy. It is a fairly lengthy read. It's not crazy long. It might be like a few minutes, but I think it's really, really worth it, especially here in the UK, where people are kind of still educated to remain very calm, and this is going to just, wash over and everything will be fine very soon. So I'm going to read this out. This is the translation of what he said, the first part. It's on Twitter. You can look it up yourself. There's the name. Obviously, you can find it. It actually was also listed on the Twitter Explore tab, so it is something that a lot of people have read. Here we go. I may be repeating myself, but I want to fight the sense of security that I see outside of the epicenters, as if nothing was going to happen here. The media in Europe are reassuring, politicians are reassuring, while there is little to be reassured of. This is the English translation of a post of another ICU physician in Bergamo. I'm saying this terribly wrong. Dr. Daniele Maccini. I hope I'm not shreddering the name too much. I will therefore try to convey the people far from our reality what we are living in Bergamo these days of the pandemic. I understand the need to not create panic, but when the message of dangerousness of what is happening does not reach people, I shudder. I myself watched with some amazement the reorganization of the entire hospital in the past week when our current enemy was still in the shadows. The wards slowly emptied, elective activities were interrupted, intensive care were freed up to create as many beds as possible. All this rapid transformation brought an atmosphere of silence and surreal emptiness to the corridors of the hospital that we did not yet understand, waiting for a war that was yet to begin and that many, including me, were not so sure would ever come with such ferocity. I still remember my night call a week ago when I was waiting for the results of a swab. When I think about it, my anxiety over one possible case seems almost ridiculous and unjustified now that I've seen what's happening. Well, the situation now is dramatic, to say the least. The war has literally exploded and battles are uninterrupted day and night. But now that need for beds has arrived in all its drama. One after the other, the departments that had beds emptied, filled up at an impressive pace. The boards with the names of patients, often different colors depending on the operating unit, are now all red. And instead of surgery, you see diagnosis, which is always the damn same. Bilateral interstitial pneumonia. I'm sorry, I can't read this properly. I'm trying my best here. Now, explain to me which flu virus causes such a rapid drama. And while there are still people who boast of not being afraid by ignoring directions, protesting because their normal routine is temporarily put in crisis, the epidemiological disaster is taking place. There are no more surgeons, urologists, orthopedists. We are only doctors who suddenly became part of a single team to face this tsunami that has overwhelmed us. Cases are multiplying. We arrive at a rate of 15 to 20 admissions per day, all for the same reason. The results of the swabs now come back one after the other, positive, positive, positive. Suddenly, the emergency room is collapsing. Reasons for the excess is always the same: fever and breathing difficulties, fever and cough, respiratory failure. Radiology reports always the same: bilateral interstitial pneumonia. And he repeats that several times, all to be hospitalized. Someone already to be intubated and go to intensive care. For others, it's too late. Every ventilator becomes like gold. Those in operating theaters that have now suspended their non-urgent activities become intensive care places that did not exist before. The staff is exhausted. I saw the tiredness on faces that did not know what it was despite the already exhausting workloads they had. I saw the solidarity of all of us who never failed to go on our internist colleague to ask, what can I do for you? Doctors who move beds and transfer patients, who administer therapies instead of nurses with tears in their eyes because we can't save everyone, and the vital parameters of several patients at the same time reveal an already marked destiny. There are no more shifts, no more hours. Social life is suspended for us. We no longer see our families for fear of infecting them. Some of us have already become infected despite the protocols. Some of our colleagues who are infected also have infected relatives, and some of their relatives are already struggling between life and death. So be patient. You can't go to the theater, museums, or to the gym. Try to have pity on the myriad of old people you could exterminate. We just try to make ourselves useful. You should do the same. We influence the life and death of a few dozen people, you with yours, many more. Please share this message. We must spread the word and prevent what is happening here from happening all over Italy. I finish by saying that I really don't understand the war on panic. The only reason I see is mask shortages, but there are no masks on sale anymore. We don't have a lot of studies. But is the panic really worse than neglect and carelessness during an epidemic of this sort? So I think reading this really gives you a quite clear idea what's going on in Italy. Okay, we are not at the point yet here in the UK, but I think the video is about looking whether we are going this way or whether there might be a way of kind of stopping halfway or slowing it down at least. Now, following on from this report, I want to share this tweet with you guys from Richard Chambers. I don't even know. Look at him. What is he? He's a news anchor on Virgin Media News. But he shared this little summary of what's going on in Italy. 60 million people put under lockdown currently. More than 9,000 cases reported. And it was 231 2 weeks ago. Now, 231 is not far from, going back to the first page, the 382 where we are right now. That was 2 weeks ago. So I mean, the rate in the UK is not as drastic, it looks at least at the moment, as it is in Italy, or as it was in Italy. But nonetheless, those numbers are scary, and they seem to indicate at least the potential of a very significant and very, very fast rise of this disease spreading. All sporting events obviously suspended, all schools and universities closed, theaters, gyms, bars, everything is barred. It's unprecedented. Something like this has never really happened. So what concerns me a lot is when looking at the government, when looking at people like Matt Hancock, Boris Johnson, but also the Department of Health and their instructions, that it really seems like there's a high interest in protecting the economy. And I mean, looking at those numbers and those reports we just looked at from Italy, I'm not sure that, another 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks of the economy somehow rolling forward is worth this kind of extent of this spread, so to say, as an alternative, obviously, to kind of pull the handbrake now and put areas in lockdown now and wait it out and put kind of everything on hold intentionally rather than wait for the virus to put everything on hold. If that makes sense. But again, it really seems like the government's main objective here is to protect the economy themselves. Like I said before, no more visitors in the parliament and things like that. So that, that is something that is concerning. Another thing that is concerning to me is how people behave here, because people literally don't take any action. This is a video I filmed today just with my phone walking down the street, and it gives you a little bit of an idea, I hope, of what's currently going on. I mean, considering where Italy was, considering where China was, and we get clear messages from China as well, where they say it's unbelievable that these people are not wearing masks, that nobody's protecting themselves. Like the doctor said, right? Like the doctor said, in those places where people still act like nothing is coming our way and there's no reason to protect us. So we have to understand, right? We have 300, what was the number? 87 cases, I believe, confirmed cases, but with a very, very high percentage of chance, there are right now thousands of cases in the city of London, where this footage is shot, by the way, it's north of London, that are spreading it. Anyone that you see here in this video could potentially already have the virus and spread it further. And, coughing. I've seen people coughing in this video. As I was walking down the street, people were coughing around me. So I think you can see there's a little bit of fear in people's faces. But if I wouldn't put this video in the context of this outbreak at the moment, then I don't think you really would notice any difference. You would say, yeah, that's a video of just another day. That is just another day. And this is such a stark contrast to what we've just heard from the Italian doctor, right, in those reports. And I personally, I don't understand why the government is not stepping up and saying, look, guys, you should wear masks. We make masks available. You should wear goggles as well, if possible, because this is really something that would help to mitigate this outbreak. And we need to do things or be more aware of this. Nobody wants to panic. Nobody wants to run around, empty supermarkets and be insane about stuff. But you want to be reasonable, right? You want to kind of put what we've just heard and these numbers statistics from Italy and also from China into perspective. I can recommend a great video on this. Actually, this is the video. The channel is called 3 Blue 1 Brown. The video is called Exponential Growth and Epidemics, and it's a very calm video, a very nice video, and it just breaks down how exactly exponential growth works when it comes to epidemics, and what you can do to kind of change that curve from happening, and what you can expect, and how viruses work. And it's a very nice educative video. It's very non-spectacular, if that makes sense. So I'd recommend anyone to watch it. I'll put the link down in the description. But I think, again, hopefully it helps us to put the cases we have at the moment, 382, into perspective when looking at the next few weeks. Another thing that is going on that I'd like to mention is that schools, there's a big thing on Twitter going on of people voting or hoping that the government will shut down the schools. To be honest, I'm one of them. I am very much in support of this. A lot of people disagree. You can have different opinions on it, because obviously if kids have to stay at home, the parents can't really work, or it creates a lot of other problems. I do understand that. However, 233,000 and a few people have signed this document, or this petition, as it stands right now, and it is quite a lot. I think it will be debated in about 3 days, but let me tell you how I think this debate will go in the parliament. They're probably going to bring it up, and they read out the little text that we want the government to consider shutting it down to avoid further spread. Someone's going to stand up and say, oh, well, no, we have consulted the specialists and the experts, and those have advised that there is no need to shut the schools, and it will also not prevent further spread. Thank you very much. And that's the end of it. And that's how you shut down 233,000. Probably in a few days it's around 300,000-400,000, whatever, but that's how you shut them down. That's just me speculating, okay? I don't know. I might be a bit over the top, but then going on from there, I want to share one thing with you guys that I've got firsthand from a mother whose daughter or son, I'm not sure, I removed all the names and all that, is in the 8th year 8 in a school in London, and the parents received this letter. I'm going to read it out. Dear parents/carers, this evening it was confirmed that the school pupil has tested positive for the virus, following a recent return from a Category 2 area. I have spoken with Public Health England, and they have advised that we remain open while a full risk assessment is conducted. We are following this advice, and the school will be open tomorrow as usual until we advise otherwise. We will provide a further update as soon as there are any more information to share with you. I appreciate that these are concerning times, yet it is important that we maintain perspective and follow the advice of the experts. So that is basically evidence that even there are confirmed cases in schools in London already. And I mean, this was, when was this? 3rd of March. Okay, so 8 days ago, there were already confirmed cases in schools. No action was taken. So that's the concerning part, right? That no action is taken. Another thing is like this tweet I saw, and there are a few like this, of a guy, was it like 3 days ago? I just landed in London from Milan, right? Which is like an epicenter of where this is going on. 0 checks, no info. How can this be possible? Right? This is how you arrive at the airport. Nobody's going to check you. You're coming from Italy. Not only are the flights not cancelled, people are flooding in without checks, without anything that would, work towards mitigating this spread, right? So that's, looking at all those aspects, it's just concerning, because while Boris Johnson, the Tories and the politicians say that they do everything they can to mitigate, factually, nothing is happening. I mean, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. The biggest thing that has been announced is that they are planning to shut down visitor groups in the parliament. Right, the parliament is closed. You can't go in. But schools stay open. There's no check or advice at airports. Public gatherings are going ahead. There's no real advice for anyone to work from home, right? That the government would advise them to work from home, like an official message to everyone, to work from home if possible. Obviously, a lot of people can't work from home, but if you can, you should. All Boris Johnson says is like, oh yeah, well, the employers and their employees are just going to find an arrangement. We don't need to tell them. I think you should say, yeah, if you can work from home, everybody at this point should work from home. So all these points together and looking at them, to me personally, I mean, again, I'm not a virologist or someone who knows a lot about this particular disease, but looking at Italy, looking at what's going on in other countries, also in Germany and France, how it multiplies over there, I personally think we're about 2, maybe 3 weeks away, if we can delay it, from the lockdown. And now again, I don't want to spread panic, and I don't want to worry anyone, but I think we have to be realistic in estimating this situation. We have to look at it, and we have to genuinely evaluate what the risks are and where we might be going with this. And I think, at least for the old and the weak and people with underlying conditions, the risks are big. You know what I mean? They are potentially huge. If you see how many people need ICUs, if you read that report from the doctor, I give you a few examples. Again, our neighbor, there are old people living very close to us. I have a friend, his wife currently has a lung infection. They have a 5-year-old son, right? She is coming down with a lung infection. If she would catch this virus because the schools are not closed and her son brings home that virus, it could literally mean she's going to die. So there are currently being, in my opinion, I mean, again, if you have a different one, let me know in the comments below, but I feel there are being reckless decisions made right now in the UK. It is irresponsible towards those people, towards those marginalized groups, really. Weak, old, children with asthma. We can just simply not ignore all these people. And the NHS is by no means prepared to deal with a situation like this. I mean, I don't know if you live in the UK and you've ever had to deal with the NHS, try to get into an A&E or something like that. It's not that all the ICUs, intensive care units are empty, that people are just waiting for all those cases to come in. It really will push the NHS to its limit. I've born 2 kids with the NHS. I had a lot to do with them in the recent 10-15 years. No, luckily not a lot, but every now and then I have a rough idea of what's going on and how they are underfunded and all that. So one conspiracy theory, and now we're coming to the fun part of the video. If you made it to here, wow, I mean, I take my hat. Well done, you made it all the way. But now we're really coming to the fun part. Because there's a conspiracy theory, right? And again, we have to take this with a grain of salt. It is just a theory. There's no evidence, but it is a thought that is worth talking about, I think. It is the idea that, to an extent, the Tories intentionally try to overload the NHS with this, right? By not taking a lot of action, really making sure that the NHS will be struggling heavily, and that there will be horrible headlines all around how the NHS is struggling and all intensive care units are full. And then Boris Johnson and the Tories after that will build an argument on top of that, of this being a reason to justify the privatization of the NHS, right? We have to say, no, look at what happened during the outbreak. We need to privatize the NHS so it can be stronger if something like this happens again. And all this becomes like a political move. Now, I understand that is a disgusting thought, because it would basically mean that Boris Johnson and his gang would accept the death of many, many people. But I mean, if you look at it, it's hard to really exclude it as well. Is it unlikely? Yeah, it is unlikely. Is it impossible? Not really. I mean, this guy, he lied to the whole nation to get Brexit, and then he lied to everyone in order to get into the position that he's in now. He doesn't have a good track record of doing like ethical decisions or going a bit too far in order to get what he wants, So again, it's a conspiracy theory. I'm not accusing him of anything, and there's no rock hard evidence to support any of this. But the overload will happen. Something that supports that as well are those statistics here, by the way, that show hospital beds and capacities in Europe, I believe. This is from 2014. Now you can actually see that Italy is down here. And the United Kingdom is 2 positions even underneath. Actually, look, the United Kingdom is 4th from the bottom, right? While countries even like Germany, Lithuania, Bulgaria, those countries are, Romania, they are on top. Obviously, again, those are just hospital beds. doesn't represent like the quality of training of staff and so on. There are a lot of factors that play into this, but nonetheless, this is not looking good. We have less in the UK, we have less beds available per person than in Italy. Okay, so this is not a pretty picture. I understand that. I fully get it. I think, to be honest, at this point, everyone has to make their own decision. If you think this is all just going to blow over and it will be fine, and then that's your right. You can think that, and that's okay, but you have to respect that other people might have a different perception or read the situation a bit differently. However, I do want to end this video on a positive note. Okay, I think there is a chance buried somewhere deep in all that what is happening right now. The world is kind of grinded to an economic and in a lot of areas now also a social halt. Systems are really put under heavy pressure currently, and businesses everywhere are struggling. Supply routes are like stress tested like never before. The current situation also brings up questions about our dependence on China, our international supply routes in general. I mean, once we made it through all this, there might be talks about the importance of returning manufacturing to our own local areas, to countries, to ensure in the future we won't fall into a trap like this again, where when China shuts down, everything shuts down. But also socially, people are forced to stop, with something like this, obviously unintentionally and against their will. But it does, if you want or not, give you time to reflect. And while under lockdown, in people in China, you could see reported that they were learning new skills. They had nothing to do. So there are people who never cooked before learned cooking. Some people learned painting, got into that. So those are things that they probably would have never done in their busy lifestyles, if they wouldn't have been forced by this disease to sit down and not leave the house. So the current situation forces the world into a very uncomfortable position, right, in terms of its economies. But without it, we would never stop, right? We would never put everything to a halt like we do right now. That would never happen if we would not be forced by something, by some external force like it is happening right now. We would never kind of reflect on how much growth we really need. We'd never really make the time to sit down and think about the illusion of like infinite economic growth and all that. But right now, we're stress testing all that, and questions like this will come up. And what prices are attached to all that, to that infinite economic growth. And by potentially forcing the world into a lockdown situation, by reducing the people's needs to a minimum for a certain period of time, of like food, warm and clean water, maybe internet, the very basics, you're kind of putting the world in a situation that it has not been in a very, very long time, right? We've been running in a hamster wheel faster and faster and faster for a very long time now, trying to, feed this thing we call the economy. And maybe there is a chance in reflecting on all this when it's over that helps us to improve on things. I don't know. I'm just trying to be optimistic here. But guys, this was, I think, probably one of the longest videos on my channel. I still hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then you can leave me a like. You can subscribe to the channel. I will keep researching this topic, and I will find new things, come across new things. And if I feel I have enough, then I will do another video. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm really curious what your thoughts are, even if you completely disagree with me, or if nothing that I said makes sense to you, if you feel the whole panic is way too crazy, people should calm down. I'm open for every opinion, and I think we can have a civilized discussion down in the comment section below. Again, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'm out. Bye.